Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm so glad you joined me today. Today I thought I'd talk about something that I really struggled with all throughout my journey of making The Happy Strangers and just a bunch of different stories, which is building a character slash story. So I thought today I'd walk through that and even build a character alongside the process to kind of show you all what I've learned from that. We're gonna erase him, I'm sorry. He's gotta go, he's gotta die. If you're gonna build a character, a really good thing to know is their story. So one thing that'll really help you build a compelling character is knowing what your message or meaning is behind the character. What I mean by this is a lot of times we like characters who we see ourselves in. A mirror version of myself, I'm going to find them more compelling, or I'm going to find them more human and more relatable if I can see their struggles and recognize it as something I've been through. I think a lot of the time people try and write such an original character that they lose the whole point of building a character is to portray a story or to portray a part of themselves that maybe they have a hard time understanding. So here is my blank slate character. Not much going on his head. So one of the things that I struggle with and I like to see in this character is maybe a little bit lonely. We're all a little lonely sometimes. We want to talk about loneliness in our story, but how is our character going to relate to that in the story? You know, are they going to be happy that they're alone? Are they sad that they're alone? Are they angry they're alone? Maybe they're an incel? I don't know. But that's a very important part, because if you have the stories about loneliness, but you can't relate your story to your character to your story, it's going to feel like there's no end goal trying to be reached or no message to be conveyed. So, I think we're going to make our character happy to be alone. I think, yeah. So he likes alone time. So maybe because he likes his alone time so much, he has a ton of hobbies instead. Maybe he likes to read books. He's a real bookworm. And maybe he gets a little annoyed at people. So these are very baseline traits. So if you were getting to know somebody, this is probably the stuff you'd learn about them first. Maybe not the fact that they're lonely, but maybe they have a ton of hobbies, they like books, and maybe they seem a little bit annoyed to be around people. But we want to go a layer deeper under that, because if this is somebody's heart in real life, we don't really tell random strangers on the street what we're feeling or thinking. So oftentimes you gotta break away at each of those layers to get down to what is actually their true self and what they actually feel and think. So maybe they're annoyed at people because they feel like they have to perform in front of people. So maybe that makes them feel exhausted. And so now we just built another layer to this character, my blank slate guy here. That maybe, he's a little tired. Those are supposed to be eye bags. Because he feels like he has to be perfect all the time. So he's also a perfectionist. We could go further and further and further in this, and honestly I find it pretty fun to do this, to just make random characters. Maybe he's a perfectionist because of his family, or maybe it's because of he feels like he's not good enough. You don't always have to be super specific on the backstory. If you don't want to, you can admit a ton of stuff. Maybe he just he feels like he's not good enough. I don't have to say it's because of his family, and then his family acted that way because of their family, and then their family acted that way because of their grandpa. I don't have to go that deep into every single character. And nobody's gonna go that deep into their life. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I hate my ex because of this, but they're probably messed up because of this, and they're probably messed up because of this. That's just, you gotta be more accountable for your stuff, and even, sometimes your flaws don't need a whole absolute reason or one reason, but they are the way they are. The next thing is kind of what your character and their personality is saying about the message. So if This is supposed to be a story about loneliness. What do I say about loneliness? I'm saying, maybe it's sometimes good, but it's not good to isolate yourself. And so with my character, maybe I push him to the point where he's just isolating himself all the time. And he never wants to be around anybody. He feels like he doesn't need anybody. Because maybe he thinks, or maybe he tells himself, they all hate me anyways, so why even try? This is kind of getting more deep than I wanted it to. I kind of wanted this to be a nice little fun thing, but we're still gonna go along. So he's kind of a more cynical guy when you really think about it. He's not very happy. He likes to keep to himself. That's not always a bad thing, but maybe he doesn't want to try because he's already put this weird filter. He has this filter going on, and he's blindsided. So anytime someone tries to break through of a positive interaction, it comes out oh no, they don't actually mean that, or they hate me. He's very kind of anxious, maybe. I'd say he's more of an anxious person. And so relative to our story, this is kind of building up to either be a nice little coming of age growth story, or a nice buddy or romance story, because we're gonna have to have something. If this is our message, is it's not good to isolate yourself like this. He's not good either. The story's gonna have to go where he ends up in ruin and we destroy him, and that's bad example, don't follow him. Or he gets quote unquote saved by somebody where he realizes, oh, I need to change, this isn't good, I need to, work on myself. And so this is all what makes our story appealing, because everybody likes to see growth in a character, even if it's growth the wrong way. And that is a very rough go at our first step. So let's move on to step 2. So even though, step 1 we did cover a lot of parts of our character, step 2 is really where we're going to cement in some of the character traits and some of the plot that work together. So as I was talking about earlier, we're talking about growth. So the first question we're going to ask ourselves is, where is this going? Although there might be a lot of stories that people like that don't seem to really have an ending or a super defined plot line or overarching story, most of the time you're going to want to have point A to point B, what's going to happen decided before you get into it. So let's get him over here, and maybe I want this to be a buddy love kind of thing. Maybe they're friends, maybe they're more than that, but the point is we have another character works in opposition to this character. Kind of the flowery, positive kind of person. And so now that I kind of know what category I want to put it in, what genre, I'll know better where I want this to go. So clearly I don't want this to go to ruin, because that'd be pretty sad. So for my character, I want to start at point A, where we have all this stuff. It's lonely and isolating, and we want to take them over to point B, which would be accepting of self and accepting others into their life. Now we have this other character we have to add in. So if we have the story here, our happy character here, and then our main character here, I want to see what all these guys' relationship is with each other. We don't want it where Blue is this savior, perfect example, and doesn't need anything from Red. Doesn't get anything in return for helping Red. You may be oh, well, they're selfless, they're a savior, whatever, but it's just, you end up with, oh, I can fix them vibes, and I'm not a fan. Why does Blue need Red? Maybe Blue needs Red because Blue can't stand to be without people. So they're lonely, but they're trying to fix it by being super active on social media, and maybe they're an influencer. if they can't stand to be without people, you know, maybe they use the people as like band-aids to solve their loneliness, and so they don't ever feel alone, so they're always getting, you know, notification and likes, and that gives them validation. And so this is different from Red, because Blue, there might be some contention there, because Blue actively surrounds themselves with people while Red refuses to. So that's also a good thing to have if you have multiple characters that are supposed to be friends along the way. That little bit of kind of battle going on here where they're contradicting each other, that's going to show that there's some growth that is going to happen here. Blue will look at Red and think, oh, why can't I be fine being alone? While Red will look at Blue and think, why can't I be perfect like that? And so they both have like this somewhat jealousy of each other, which is why they can't stand each other. But this is why they end up admiring each other, is because of their differences and because of their flaws. This is what Blue does for the story, is offer another point to our loneliness, meaning, and message. And so now we can kind of see these two battle each other between surrounding yourselves with people or isolating yourselves from people. Design is very important, you know, to your overall message too, although it's not the first thing people think about all the time. First thing is world building. You want your world to say something about your characters. So for example, maybe how my two characters met, you know, Blue's an influencer, maybe Blue went to a farm and Red doesn't like people, so maybe they work on that farm, and so that's how they meet, and that's the catalyst for them meeting. And the farm is, it's secluded, no internet, so that Blue is going to get mad by that, and then maybe something else happens where the electricity goes out, Red needs to rely on Blue. Say our world is going to be on this farm, probably modern day if we're talking about loneliness, because loneliness is also a big problem in the present day. But maybe also the format we present our message in. It'd be a cool idea to have Blue has their camera, right, or their recording equipment. Maybe they just use their phone, and even though they don't have internet, but they still want to get all those pictures and, you know, being presented all of this information and all of the story through the camera. The last thing I want to say is be smart about what you include. I want to tell as much about the story through their design, you know, and we'd add maybe suspenders to show a farm. I can be like, oh, this kind of looks like a farm, you know, we got boots and overalls, that gives me farm vibes. Crazy hair going on, so maybe not very like presenting themselves socially. So our other character, obviously just from that we can tell is a lot more polished, and you want to develop these to explain as much as you can but not take away from their meaning. So it's a very big balancing act between design and understanding of what is going on. Very basic steps for developing characters. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you are interested, this Valentine's Day, me and the community are doing a Valentine's Day art challenge. So from February 7th to February 14th, you draw one drawing every day, and then you can give it on Valentine's Day to the people you care about. So your friends, your family, your loved ones, even complete strangers, and also share them with the community, and everybody can build on their drawings and encourage each other. And depending on how many get submitted, I'm guessing it's not going to be a crazy ton. All of them will be featured at the end of one of my videos.